and if you had to give 2 tips for the professor and maybe 2 tips for the Gen Z when you think about now learning and going forward, like, okay, what are one of the 2 things just the Gen Z should keep in mind, and one of the 2 things that a professor should keep in mind as sort of call to action or call to advice, as we think about keeping learning at its optimal best?
I love that question. I've never been asked that before, but I have. But I'm really happy to answer that one. For students, I think, and I've already mentioned it, is that to understand that that the harder you work doesn't necessarily mean the more you learn. You have to be strategic, and that also means taking breaks. So so I hear people going, and this is harmful, I think, to them mentally, and to just keep working harder and harder and harder, and then they get depressed, they get tired, they get they're not learning, and then they think, oh, I'm not doing very well, so I'm going to just do more. Okay,
So this
when
just repeats the
actually,
cycle. Yeah.
exactly. So if they just take a break, actually work less, they can
Yeah.
do better. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's one. The
Yeah.
other top thing that I would say better sleep, for instance, just getting a more consistent sleep pattern. Put your phone away during the sleep because it's pinging all the time and wake you. So you think about your quality of sleep, quantity and quality of sleep. So that's all in that bucket.
Yep.
The other
Okay.
tip is just the whole distraction piece. It's the apps on these things are designed to get your attention, right? They're so sophisticated to be always trying to get your attention,
Lure you,
right?
yeah. Yeah.
So
Correct.
so you're sort of defenseless. So you have to take it into your control and just start out with 5 minutes if you're having trouble, and we can go into how do you change management. But if you have trouble disengaging from the phone, can you promise yourself to do it for an hour when you're the busiest? Or promise to turn it on airplane mode for 5 minutes if you can't do it even for 10 minutes a day. So deal with your distraction. We think that we're being efficient by multitasking. Like, okay, I'm going to listen to my lecture, I'm going to answer my email, I'm going to be Facebook, and then on the other hand, I'm going to be doing my online fantasy football. Okay, so it doesn't work that way. So we teach your students to try not to multitask. There's some times where we that's a way of life. So I'm not trying to say eliminate it completely, but just be strategic in during the times where you're not multitasking. Okay, so that's 2. For the faculty, I would say that, again, to summarize what I said, that content is not enough. Content is not a complete education. Having students being able to work with each other, however you choose, collaborate and dig deep, apply that information, think about that information, and work together to do that would be really helpful for the students. And then so it's just this really the bigger picture idea is that it's not just about the content, but it's about the whole classroom setting. It's how students then get support from each other and relate to each other, relate to the teacher, and find that support is really critical for learning. So I think as I said, our Gen Zs are suffering right now because they don't have that social support, and we don't think about it enough as teachers. We think all our role is to deliver the content, but that's not true. We have to deliver a really nurturing and educational environment for our students for them to really achieve. Okay. And the other thing is this, again, to summarize what I said, is to really give them the context of what is important, because it starts to give them the skills of trying to discern that themselves. And that applies not only to their classroom, but their lives when they're consuming the news and they're trying to sort out from all this information. So specific to Gen Zs who are just so comfortable online, right? But the disadvantage of that is that they're presenting so many options. And you probably know the studies where it's done by a Duke professor, where you give consumers too many choices and then they can't choose any. Right?
There's choice anxiety.
Yeah, so they get so many different things that they're hearing. They can't sort out what's important, and they come away with not really learning the material, but just being confused by it. So it's great to incorporate all of the learning that Gen Zs are comfortable with, but you have to bring them back home and give them a solid summary of what you really feel is important.
Yeah.
And they debate you on that,
Yeah.
but you need to reduce it amount so that they actually come away with what you really want them, the essence of what you really want to learn. And because not everything is equally important. So that's the other thing for teachers.